And away we go. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you happen to be in the world today. Welcome, one and all, to Coffee Talk. That's right, it is time for Coffee Talk, where we will be taking a look at some of what is going on in the world today, taking a look at some news articles, reading and having some discussion. And of course, this is live on YouTube at Coffee Talk Live or at Prepper University. Please join me on those channels. And you can find me live at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday, as well as at Coffee Talk Chat on X, formerly known as Twitter, where I can sometimes put things that I would not be able to otherwise put anywhere else since Elon Musk has made a few adjustments to it. Also, you can find me on Fistful of Radio. That's fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon. Special thanks to some people that have helped with the GoFundMe project. Again, that is Gary, Joseph, and Ryan. Much appreciated, gentlemen. And I'll go ahead and read through some of the people that have chimed in on the live portion. Of course, I do try to read as many of the comments as I can for those of you who are listening and not able to see what is going on so that you can keep up. You see, Donna Beaver is here, says, remember, thumbs up, like, and share. Yes, please do. If you don't mind, ladies and gentlemen. Occult Prepper says he's going to make the live today. Yes, apparently you have. Helter is here. Brian. Who else is with us? Dragon. Monkey. Delo. As we cascade through here, Matthew from the UK. Lucky Luciano is here. Sven is here from Michigan. Says Johnny has a long mustache. Johnny has a long mustache, does he? Johnny has apparently a long mustache. Not sure quite what you're referencing there. As we get ready to dive into the news and see what is going on in the world today. In the world of the ridiculous. The world of the ridiculous. And this is something from The View, actually, so you know it's ridiculous. You know it is before you even hear it. And I try to give people credibility, and this is going to be an independent journal review article. And I'll pull it up here in a second. You try to give, I hesitate to call a lot of people stupid. All right. I know people are not that smart. I say that all the time. And the people that are not that smart are often taken advantage of by those who realize that most people are not that smart, politicians and activists and people in the media who understand that most people are not that bright, and they take advantage of that. And one of the things that they often do also is they act like they're not too bright themselves. And I think often that's part of the smokescreen. Like AOC, is she really that thick? Or is it part of an act? However, on this one, I gotta wonder. I gotta wonder. Again, independent journal review article talking about one of the hosts of The View. The View host blames climate change for causing the eclipse and gets ridiculed live on the air by her own co-hosts. Absolutely perfect. It doesn't get better than that. And I see Boogers has joined us today, as well as Unknown chiming in here as we get into the article. And I don't know who these people are because I watch this show. And who is it? Who is it that said that? Hostin? It says everyone's favorite host of The View, Sunny, host another hot take. On Monday's segment, Hostin, while speculating on the return of cicadas, the recent earthquakes, and the eclipse, answer for why this is all happening. Climate change. Oh, you know the cicadas, we have a big jump in cicadas every few years. Isn't it like 11, 17 years? I forget because they hibernate. So the cicadas are going to be coming up again. This is common. This happens all the time. They live in a cycle. And it says, it goes on to say Whoopi Goldberg first corrected Holston on how to pronounce cicadas, then reminded her that they appear regularly. No, every 17 years this happens. She also corrected her regarding the eclipse. They've known about the eclipse coming because eclipses happen, and they actually can say when these things are going to happen. Goldberg continued. That's fascinating. While Goldberg appeared to be addressing anyone who thought the eclipse was a sign of the rapture, she was also correcting Holston for her after her downright odd climate change remark. It's not odd, it's stupid. Joey Barr also chimed in regarding earthquakes. Ask anyone who took a geology class will remember it's underground. Yeah, but again, you got to wonder about these people. You got to wonder about these people. I mean, how thick are you? Cicadas, yeah, it's a common occurrence. They hibernate for a period and then they all surface together in an overwhelming number. And eclipses, I mean, you could set your watch by. It's a natural occurrence, solar and lunar, that happen in cycles since time immemorial. And yeah, earthquakes are underground. I don't think you can blame earthquakes on climate change as much as you want to blame everything on climate change. That sounds like or science moms. That sounds like science moms kind of science right there. Cicadas, climate change. Because science moms is ridiculous if you've ever seen their ads. Monkey says American education, folks. Indeed. And Brian says, are people even going to remember this eclipse a year from last Monday? Probably not. And Urban is here. It says hanging around in the background today. And John Boy is also here. Boogert said, I'd die of embarrassment if I was corrected by Whoopi Goldberg on live television. No kidding. And then Monkey said, earthquakes can't really be preventative by nature unless man-made via nuclear bombs. So climate change argument doesn't make sense. And the eclipse, yeah. And or the eclipse. Unbelievable. And this is how dumb people are. Helter says the only thing sadder than the fact that those pretending to be dumb are paid to cluck is that there are others who actually pay and mind to their mouth flatulence. There are people who believe it, quite frankly. Or as Ben Kenobi once said, who's the more foolish, the fool or the fool who follows him? Dragon says the only thing more ignorant and brainwashed than the hosts of The View is its target audience. Ouch, there it is. There it is. And then they got to find a derpy looking photo of her to put in the article as well. I love that addition. That helps a lot with the whole concept of what's going on here. But you can't blame cicadas, earthquakes, and eclipses on climate change as much as you would like to. As much as you would like to. And again, that is totally a science mom's kind of a thing, because that sounds to me like the kind of thing that science moms would try to convince you of, who are neither scientists nor are they mothers. Unbelievable. And there is an earthquake watch, though, because they're concerned currently. A small article blurb in the news, I don't have it pulled up, but they're a little concerned because the San Andreas fault has been acting up lately, and they're like, ooh, is a big one coming? Let's all hope so. Let's pray for the San Andreas fault to do the Lex Luthor from Superman 1978 thing. Was it 78 or 77? I think the Christopher Reeve Superman was 1978. Correct me if I'm wrong. And as you recall, the plot was, or one of the plots, Lex Luthor was going to drop a nuclear bomb on the San Andreas fault and sink California. Sink California. So let's... Something that his father told him. The one thing they're not making anymore. Land. That's right. They're not making it anymore. As we shift around here, this is something that's been a big issue in the United States for decades. For decades, what this article is talking about. And that fluoride in your USA Today article. So you know it's true, reliable. and hopefully everything working properly because the screen. Am I still? I sure hope so. Goodness gracious, that makes me nervous when this. Come on, Restream, anytime now. Anytime. It looks like it's messing up on me. Yeah, and I tell you what, it's very frustrating, especially like I had pointed out when you're this. You pay for the service. You pay for it to try to give people a good service. Like I said, I'm not like a professional broadcaster here getting paid to do this. You know, I'm just reaching out to people, and Restream's going to mess me up that it was 1978. 1978. This is a USA Today article. Spread fluoride in drinking water divides communities across the U.S. I don't think they're that divided. I think that the majority of communities do not want fluoride in the drinking water. I think most communities do not want that, don't trust it. So Monroe, North Carolina, they're going on here about, let me see, North Carolina city southeast of Charlotte has not been happy with the tap water for a while. Our water has been cloudy and bubbly and looks milky, says Barrett, who blames fluoride, a mineral that communities across the nation have for decades added to the water supply to help prevent cavities and improve dental health. Now, the communities don't do this. The state does it. Whoever is in charge of the water distribution does this. Communities don't agree with this. Every time I think about fluoride, people are against it. They don't want fluoride in the water. They don't trust it. It says she doesn't want fluoride in anything, according to Barrett, echoing a growing number of people who not only doubt the mineral's effectiveness, but also believe it may be harmful despite decades of data pointing to public health and economic benefits. How are there economic benefits to putting fluoride in water? And who says that it's helpful? The same scientists who used to tell us that smoking was beneficial to your health? In February, the Board of City Commissioners in Union County, whose seat is Monroe, voted 3-2 to stop adding fluoride to the drinking water at the Yadkin River Water Treatment Plant, the only water source wholly owned and operated by the county. But the decision came after heated discussions among residents and other county officials. Quote, "My children had the blessing of growing up with fluoride in their water, and they have very little dental issues," said Commissioner Richard Helms. I bet he did, ahead of the water vote. A fellow commissioner saw it differently. Let's stop putting something in the water that's meant to treat us and give people the freedom to choose. Barrett's water comes from the city of Monroe, not the Yadkin facility, so for now she will continue to drink water enhanced with fluoride. Quote, "I'm suspicious as to why they add that to our water," she told KFF Health News. It's a scenario playing out nationwide from Oregon to Pennsylvania. Hundreds of communities have in recent years either stopped adding fluoride to their water supplies or voted to prevent its addition. Supporters of such bans argue that people should be given the freedom of choice. The broad availability of over-the-counter dental products containing the mineral makes it no longer necessary to add public water supplies, they say. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention says the whole store-bought products, or while store-bought products, reduce tooth decay. The greatest protection comes when they are used in combination with water fluoridization. I don't believe that. I don't think that it's close that and see if that helps it catch up here, because it's acting really stupid. And Lucky reminds us that it started in Germany during World War II with Operation Paperclip. They putting the fluoride in the water. And Dragon says the drink 8 glasses of water a day myth was started the same year as U.S. water fluoridization started in 1945. Strange coincidence. I don't trust it. They tell you there's a health benefit to it. I don't know if that's true or not. Again, you can get scientists to say anything. There's 3 types of scientists. Scientists who say, yes, this is true. Scientists who say, no, this isn't. And then the guys in the middle that want to know, well, how much do you want to pay me to say it is or it isn't? And those are the ones that get the jobs. I don't trust that. Again, I mentioned smoking earlier. My mother smoked menthols because the doctor prescribed it. It was supposed to be good for her health. A good stimulant. Clean your lungs out. Smoke menthol cigarettes. Smoke Chesterfields, unfiltered. No, actually, she smoked Cool 100 filtered. But I don't trust the fluoride in the water. My teeth are in excellent condition, except for the one I broke. But my teeth are in excellent condition, and I don't drink tap water. And I use a Berkey system for any water I do have to use, as far as cooking or drinking or anything that I'm using water for. There's not much you can do about it as far as like taking a shower, for example. But I mean, I haven't used fluoride like that. I don't use fluoride toothpaste either. I haven't used fluoride like that for decades. And when I did have problems was when tap water was being used, and that was when I was a kid. That's when I had all the cavities. So what are you trying to tell me? And that's just my example. That doesn't mean anything. It may be different for other people, but the bottom line is most folks, they don't want fluoride in their drinking water. It shouldn't be an issue. I've seen many, many articles of communities across America protesting it, signing petitions, voting for it, and then the city council still does it anyways. Why? And the article went on to say that that they think that it worked too well. It worked too well, and people don't appreciate it, and that's why they don't want it. I don't trust that. I do not trust that. Don't trust it. Don't like it. Don't trust it. Don't like it. And Brian says, do most restaurants serve tap water? Yes. Yes, they do. You've got to be careful with that. If you go to a restaurant, when you ask for a glass of water, smell it. Smell it and tell me it doesn't smell like chlorine. And that's the thing too, is like if my wife and I go anywhere, and I really end up drinking nothing. If we do go out somewhere, I rarely will drink anything. I'm not going to pay like $3 for a drink that's mixed with tap water anyway. All they do is, like, if you got a soda, they have the tap, the carbon pump, and the flavoring unit that's it sucks it out of a big bag that's inside of a cardboard box, and then the CO2 tank, and then tap water. That's all it is. But if you say a glass of water to save on your meal expense, I take the glass and smell it. And if I smell chlorine, that's it. I don't want to touch it. But I don't think I've ever picked up a glass at a restaurant and it didn't smell like chlorine, which means it's just freaking tap water with some ice in it. And the ice is tap water too. So yeah, Brian, there you go. Monkey says, the US EPA says that the max amount of fluoride allowed in water is 4.0 micrograms. And Puck is safe from the solar eclipse. Yes, you survived. Congratulations. You lived until the next one. We'll get you next time. We'll burn you out next time. Well, it'll be like Night of the Comet. H.G. Wells wrote that, didn't he? Night of the Comet. And no, Night of the Comet was good because everybody who saw the comet, it enlightened them. In the H.G. Wells novel, I think there was a movie, Night of the Comet, that there was a reverse effect for the purpose of the film. It was more like a horror film. And Monkey says mg is milligrams. I said it wrong. That's all right. As we shift gears here. and we're going to look at defense news. Defense news. Maybe going slow again. Here it comes. Defense news, and Carrick has joined us. Glad you could make it today, Carrick. This is really interesting because it's time for Skynet. We've crossed that border. AI-operated fighter jets will fly Air Force Secretary on a test run. There's your AI fighter jet. Not a drone, a fully equipped jet like an F-16 fighter. The Air Force is betting a large part of its future air warfare on a fleet more than 1,000 autonomously operated drones, and later this spring its top civilian leader plans to climb into one of those artificial intelligence operated warplanes and let it take him airborne. Air Force Secretary Frank Kendall told senators on Tuesday at a hearing on the service's 2025 budget. Let me ban that so I don't lose this. That he'll enter the cockpit of one of their F-16s that the service has converted for drone flight to see how it performs in the air. There will be a pilot with me who will just be watching as I will be as the technology works, Kendall told the Senate Appropriations Committee Defense Panel. Hopefully, neither he or I will need to fly the plane. Drone warfare has quickly expanded from the sidelines of combat to one of its primary weapons. Are a daily threat in Ukraine and the Middle East. In Ukraine, every targeted Russian drones, but also are drones to collect video of Russian positions in the Middle East. Iranian-backed Houthis and militant groups have regularly employed sophisticated air, sea, and underwater drones to target U.S. bases and commercial ships in the Red Sea. Now, there's a difference, though. The difference with those, okay? So when they do a drone, it's not flying itself. There's a guy with controllers piloting and operating it. Or the camera drones, the spy drones, someone is operating those. It's remotely operated. They're not completely autonomous, carrying out instructions. Now, evidently, the Air Force is revealing they've got a fleet rather, of fully autonomous F-16s that they've outfitted that are going to fly themselves and carry out missions. And this guy is going to fly in one to demonstrate that it can operate itself safely. So, yeah, Skynet, anyone? Okay. Unknown says, well, AI can't get back out or read out. Yeah. And Occult Prepper says, yes, Night of the Comet, the horror movie was awesome. Yeah, Night of the Comet, the horror movie was completely the opposite of the Night of the Comet, the novel, where everybody's enlightened for seeing it. Or you could go full on Night of the Triffids and everybody who was watching went blind. So that was a comet too, Night of the Triffids, wasn't it? Or no, it was a meteor shower. I think it was a meteor shower in Day of the Triffids. Day of the Triffids, which I think has had 3 incarnations. It was a 50s film, an 80s made-for-TV miniseries on BBC, and then another incarnation, right? I know, I'm going down a bunny trail talking about Day of the Triffids here. It says here, the Air Force began planning for its fleet of collaborative combat aircraft, or CCAs, several years ago, and it envisions an scenario in which one piloted jet will be able to quarterback multiple AI-driven response drones, which the service calls loyal wingmen. Oh, I see. So all you have to do is take out take out whoever's captaining the pack of aircraft used. Is that the idea? Or do you honestly think that the one guy, the the actual pilot who has 10 fully equipped fighter jet drones with him is going to be able to manage them all. And Fluke Man is here. Glad you could make it. And Dragon says, unfortunately, the temptation to have these vehicles and other select targets autonomously will be too great soon. Yeah, true. Because they can't, especially the US, can't rely on its boots on the ground anymore. The United States military and the UK military, for that matter, are laughing stocks across the world. We got dudes in makeup and dresses in the army. What nation, third world, Eastern Bloc, Asian continent, is going to take us seriously? Because that's a huge sign of weakness. It really is. In the structure of the military and in the men and women who are part of it. Who's going to take us seriously? They've got to use drones. It's the only way they'll get anything done. But can you trust that? We already can't trust the AI. It already screws up. It already makes a lot of mistakes. It already is dishonest. It will lie. We read an article about that last week where New York City is in trouble because it replaced its call center with an AI bot that answers questions for people in message boards, and it's telling them the wrong things. It's telling them to do things that are illegal that could get the business owners in trouble. Puck says the Russians' Su-57 jet fighter can be paired with one or more of their Okhnotik B drones, if I pronounced that correctly. This technology was tested in missions over the Ukraine. And Brian says another reason countries don't fear the U.S. Yeah, we'll be in more trouble with that stuff in the future if that thing ever turns on us. It says here the drone fleet is expected to be cheaper than developing new manned jets. Kendall said the current goal is to have each cost about a quarter to a third of what an F-35 fighter costs now, or about $20 million apiece. Well, yeah, if you don't have to accommodate it for a pilot, saves on space and equipment, I suppose. And Zane says out here in California, they're seeing a lot of Army vehicles being put on trains and sent to San Diego. Well, the trains move that stuff around all the time. I see articles about that. Oh my God, this train is moving all these tanks and whatever. And I don't take any of that seriously because, again, my wife used to work for Union Pacific, and she's like, yeah, they move stuff all over the country like that constantly. They shift that stuff around from one base to another. They take it back. They keep the stuff moving on trains. So seeing a train load of military equipment isn't as big of a deal as a lot of people might think. I know that prepper community likes to hammer that one, or they show video clips like, look at this train. It's got the tanks on it. What's it going? Where's it doing? And my wife corrected me on that quite a while ago. She was like, oh, we used to see those all the time in the train yard in Chicago. It's no big deal at all. And Zane says, of course, pilots need food, water, training, pension, and funding. And yeah, a drone doesn't need a damn thing. And Puck thinks that Joe Biden is AI generated. Hey, who knows? Maybe he's an android. Maybe he is. Who knows? As we shift gears, and we're going to hop down to Mexico. I know nobody wants to go to Mexico these days, but we're going to take a look at it today. We're going to take a look at it today really quickly here. Hopefully I can, unless this messes me up just really quickly, because it doesn't look like it's going to let me open the whole article. Sorry to say. But I can just touch on it for a moment, because we're not actually we're not going to Mexico. I do believe the Ecuador that we're talking about. For that to unlock anytime now, I wonder if we can switch back or if it's too late, because this stuff is not cheap. You know, these streaming services are not cheap. Wall Street Journal article, U.S. Latin American governments criticize Ecuador after Mexican embassy raid. Mexico cut diplomatic ties with Mexican embassies in Quito. Mexico City, Ecuador's conservative government facing widespread criticism after police raided an embassy in Quito, political asylum by Mexico's administration. And it looks, I'll just shut that down. Wall Street Journal not going to let me open the rest of the article. Do. And now I got the yellow warning here telling me default microphone. So hopefully everybody can still hear me. I don't think I used to have this problem with StreamYard. And again, I'm wondering if it's possible to cancel the Restream service now without having to owe them anything. Oh, and here we go. I just got my notification from YouTube that I am live. 31 minutes and 42 seconds into the broadcast. Apparently I am live. Thank you, YouTube, for letting me know. And Puck says the CIA is jamming my audio. Oh, God, not that. And Urban is back. He said, finished watching the closing arguments in the Apple River case. And Monkey says StreamYard never had this issue. We're going to look into it. If it's possible to switch back, we'll try it. We'll try it. Because that is aggravating. But essentially, Mexico took Ecuador's vice president on terms of political asylum, and Ecuador is like, Mexico, mind your own damn business, give him back. And they refused, so they raided the embassy, which in theory could be construed as an act of war, although I seriously doubt Mexico is trying to go to war with anybody. I don't know how seriously to take that. Is that Dusty? Dusty has joined us in the chair back there. Thanks for joining us today, Dusty. Dusty, of course, is the cat, sister to Daniel, the other cat, keeping me company in the office as I read through the news with our guests in the live stream on YouTube. But it's kind of interesting to see Ecuador take that stance. Screw you, Mexico. We're just going to go and get him. We don't care what you think. Stop us if you dare. And as I understand it, Mexico's diplomatic staff has now left the country. I do believe that's what the article said. And again, when I tried to reopen it here, it would not allow me to, because it wants me to subscribe to the Wall Street Journal, which I'm not interested in subscribing to anything. Not at all. And whatever's going on between Ecuador and Mexico needs to stay that way. It needs to stay that way. Because the more people that get drug into that, the worse it's going to get. And we're going to jump to, is this Scotland? I think this is going to be Scotland. And this is a daily article. And the reason that I want to look at this is because I predicted it when we talked about it a week ago, that they have the new hate crime, anonymous hate crime drop boxes where you can submit complaints about so-called hate crimes in Scotland now. And I was like, watch, it's going to be used to bully people, kind of like the anti-bullying campaigns that they used to have. I don't know if they still do this, but when I was working with public schools, they had this problem where they had the anonymous box for if you were being bullied by another student, and they used it to bully each other because they would fill out they filled out the anonymous card. So and so touched my junk. So and so called me a bitch. Whatever, and you put it in the bully box, and then that kid will get interviewed by the counselor and the school social worker for 2 hours, and didn't do anything. And I was like, Scotland is setting themselves up for the same kind of shit. That's what's going to happen. Zane says that happened to me, the anonymous bullying thing. I said Scotland is going to end up in the same boat, having an anonymous tip line for so-called bullying. So and so said something that hurt my little, and I want to put name in the box. But in reality, you can use that to torment people because they'll be investigated and harassed. And here you go, Daily Mail, nearly 7,800 hate crime complaints were made to police in Scotland in the first week Humza Yousaf's new law came into force. There you go. Police Scotland received nearly 7,800 reports of hate crimes under Scotland's new law in the first week of operation, with 3% of the reports resulting in a recorded offense, the force has said. And I'll get back to that in a second. The Hate Crime and Public Order of Scotland Act was enacted on April 1st, and since then, April 1st, April Fools, good time for it. And since then, police say they have logged in 7,152 reports of hate made online, alongside 400 police logged hate reports and a handful of complaints made by phone or email anonymously. Police say the vast number of reports of online hate received during the first week, many of which were targeted at J.K. Rowling and First Minister Humza Yousaf, were anonymous. They were assessed against the legislation and no action was taken. The force intends to publish data on the new legislation weekly. It says there has been a substantial increase in the number of online hate reports it has received compared to before the legislation came into effect. You think? However, police chiefs insist that the impact of the law on frontline policing and its ability to respond to calls regarding other crimes has been minimal. A breakdown of the figures published on Wednesday shows 3,419 online hate reports were made on April Fool's Day, the day the law came into effect. On April 2nd, 1,359 reports were made, and so on. Of the reports made, 240 were crimes, almost double that at the same time period for recent years, when 139 were recorded in the week of April 1st, 2021. Okay, and that tells you everything right there. They received almost 7,800 reports, and out of those, there's only 400 of them. They say 430 incidences right here. They said 400 up top, but now they say 430 further on in the article. Out of those 7,800 almost reports, 430 of them, they're actually going to take a look at. Only 430 of them possibly are credible. They still don't know because it hasn't been investigated. Who didn't know this was going to happen? Who didn't know this was going to happen? And then Cyberjack Sr. is here. Glad you could make it today. Lucky says, is there a difference between a hate crime and a somewhat disliked crime? I have no idea how they're measuring that. And anybody can consider it. You could say anything to me, and I can interpret it as a hate crime and make a case out of it, depending upon where I am. In Scotland, apparently, I can make a case out of it. Lucky hurt my feelings. Wah, wah, wah. I'm trying to dry my tears, and I want the police to charge him. Lucky needs to go to jail. Helter says no one will stop complaining until they repeal the act. Exactly. And Dragon says, asking the government to police your emotions is the lamest thing ever. Society has become pathetic, full of hurty feelings and anxiety. The Western world is finished. I know it. I know it. Who knew? Who knew that Demolition Man was going to end up being a documentary? No hurdy, all joy, happy feelings, and no touchy. The slap me five is like this, remember? And use the 3 seashells. And no bad words, and no bad language, or you get a fine. You have been charged 3 credits for violating the Language Act. And Unknown says, he's talking to someone else there. I try to stay out of the side conversations if I can. Yeah, who knew? Who knew that Stallone and Wesley Snipes hit a nerve there? Hit a nerve. Because that's exactly where we ended up, especially after the C virus pandemic lockdowns. And you had to stand 6 feet apart and wear a mask and don't touch anybody and don't talk to anyone. And it was ridiculous. It still is. Flute Man says future generations will have chips in their heads. Government will read everything in their heads. Yeah. Hey, that could be. Watch the movie The Feed. Or no, it's not a movie. It's a television series from the UK called The Feed, warning about all that kind of stuff. And it's not that old of a show, but it's happening. It's happening. It's the one where the primary core of the plot, there's no cell phones. It's an implant. And it's an implant overlay, and you can actually see the data. You think it's in front of you. You can see it with your eyes and hear it. But the Feed monitors everything that you do, everywhere that you go. And the younger you are, the more susceptible you are to the Feed, because if there's an interruption in the service, younger people have seizures on the show. They fall out because they're so used to the constant input that they don't know how to function without it. A modification on the concept of where people are with modern cell phones. So yeah, I could totally see that. The government would love to chip everybody and monitor their whereabouts and follow them around and see what they do and just make their lives hell. They would absolutely love that. They would love that. There's an image here I wanted to share. Just wanted to get some opinions on this. Zane wanted to know what show is that. It's called The Feed. F-E-E-D. The Feed. And it's a show out of the UK. I'm going to share an image here. I'm going to try to. Let me see if this works. See if anybody's ever heard any of these things about pork. I got this today, and I was reading it, and it occurs to me that, yeah, pretty much everything on this list is the truth. Unknown says it's augmented reality, your very own personal head-up display. Exactly, but it's inside your head. And Fluke Man says, reminds me that movie you mentioned, one person was allergic to the implant, so we had to learn things the normal way. That's actually from the new Outer Limits, not the original Outer Limits from the 60s, but the new Outer Limits, which I think was a 90s show. That's where that was. Anyone ever heard these things about pork? Because I looked it up, and it's pretty much the truth. Thinking about this, I don't eat pork, and, I'm not telling you not to. You want to eat bacon, go ahead. I don't care. I can't tell you what to do. I just want to see if anyone ever heard these things. And it's got a list of things that evidently are true. And like I said, I've been looking up some of these things on this list, and apparently they are about pork. Number 1, I eat my own offspring if it's weak and diseased. Number 2, I eat my own feces. Number 3, I will eat the corpse of a dead human, a dog, rats, You name it, is what it says. And they are like omnivores, and they will eat dead things. They're like possums. 4, I am a garbage disposal on 4 legs. Okay, I guess you can imply that based on what you just read. 5, I have one of the poorest digestive systems known to man. That I'm not sure about because I did not look that one up. Number 6 is a biblical mention. It says, God warned you not to eat me or even touch my carcass, so I am not the other white meat. That is biblical. You're not supposed to eat it. 7, I eat poisonous snakes and they bite me, but cannot hurt me as their venom goes straight to my fat cells. 8, I am raised in a cage in modern processing plants, which stress me out and make me crazy. That's true. 9, I chew on the bars of my cages until my face is a bloody mess. True. They also attack and kill each other in the cages. When they become in contact, they're brutal. Is that 11? Wait a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm losing my place. 10, I hope I have parasites and worms in my flesh that are so strong it's nearly impossible to kill all of them while cooking me to eat. I've heard that. 11, I have next to nothing left in the way of nourishment for you by the time you're done cooking me to, quote, recommended temperature. You might as well eat the sole of your shoe. I think that's funny, actually. And 12, Charlie Chaplin ate the sole of his shoe in The Tramp and his shoelaces. 12, I find it hard to believe that you are unaware that our Creator never intended for me to be food for you, and he informed you of that in the 11th chapter of Leviticus and the 14th chapter of Deuteronomy. You know, Leviticus and Deuteronomy, those 2 chapters in the Bible that no one ever reads because they're boring, but they're extremely, extremely important. I just wanted to share that because I was looking at this. And like I said, I can't tell you what to do. Make your own decisions. Make your own decisions. I love ice cream. I like cheese too. And there are people that would tell me that's disgusting. Oh, well, what are you going to do? Zane says they eat it occasionally, but they're not a fan. And Zane says rabbits and cows eat their own feces. It's called coprophagia. Raccoon says gross. I don't eat pigs anyways. And where are we here? Carrick says, yes, it may be true, but people sure do eat blue crabs. Yeah, they eat crustaceans too, and all those are aquatic insects, basically. Brian says those sound like things James Rolfe would say he would rather do than play shitty games he reviews. Unbelievable. And Zane says all of those facts are true for many animals. Yeah, but not all of those animals are kosher. But anyways, I just wanted to share that, see if anybody ever heard any of those things. And Unknown says it sounds like vegan propaganda. Could be. It could be. I'm not vegan, though. I eat honey. A lot of people think that's gross because honey is basically bee regurgitation. It's processed in their stomachs. I know, sounds nasty, but there's worse things. And Lucky says their phone won't let them spell pork. Really? Quit eating pork 2 years ago. Also quit eating catfish and bottom feeders. Okay, Lucky. I don't eat catfish either. Yeah, well, biblically speaking, you're only supposed to eat fish that has scales. Fish with scales, and pretty much no other sea life is what's supposed to be on the menu from a kosher perspective. That is. But like I said, you can do whatever you want. As we shift around to a Newsweek article. This one I don't quite understand. I read this one a little bit because sometimes I don't always read the article in advance. And this one I picked through a little bit because I don't understand how we quite got to this point. And that's Letitia James, the most unliked district attorney in New York. Letitia James celebrates $1.25 million win. Okay, good for you. New York Attorney General Letitia James, you remember she's the one that was getting booed by firefighters, and they're in the process of threatening those firefighters now, saying they're going to hunt them down. New York Attorney General Letitia James celebrated a $1.25 million win on Tuesday as conservative activists Jacob Wall and Jack Berkman reached a deal to pay James's office and others for running a voter campaign during the 2020 election. In March 23, a federal judge ruled in James' favor in a lawsuit against Wall and Berkman for their efforts to suppress black voters ahead of the 2020 election. James had filed the lawsuit against Wall and Berkman in May 2021 after an investigation by the Office of the Attorney General found that Wall and Berkman orchestrated a broad voter suppression campaign that used robocalls to spread election-related misinformation to black voters and others in an effort to discourage voting. Who are the others? Who are the other people? People who are not black? Does this target black people specifically? That's what I want to know. And how was it discouraging people from voting? I want to hear the robocall. I'm going to see if I can find it maybe tomorrow. The federal judge has found the two men liable, saying in a ruling last year that they set into motion a full-scale voter suppression operation during the summer of 2020 to discourage eligible voters from voting by targeting mail-in the 2020 election. On Tuesday, a $1.25 million deal was reached by Wall and Berkman with James's office, the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation, and several individual plaintiffs, as the two men have agreed to pay the judgment to them. Quote, "The right to vote, cornerstone of our democracy, and it belongs to everyone. We will not allow anyone to threaten that right." Yeah, unless they work for the government, I guess. Wall and Berkman orchestrated a depraved and disinformation-ridden campaign to intimidate black voters in an attempt to sway the election in favor of their preferred candidate. Now they will pay up to $1.25 million, James said in a statement announcing the settlement. And who does that help? Because the state just takes that money and does what with it? Who's that helping? Where's that money going? Who's going to spend it and on what? In response to the deal, James took to X, formerly Twitter, to celebrate the judgment, adding that voting is a right and she intends to continue to protect it. Quote, "Conspiracy theorists Jacob Wall and Jack Berkman must pay up to $1.25 million for their racist and dangerous voter intimidation campaign that targeted black voters. Voting is our most basic democratic right, and I'll always fight to protect it," James wrote. I want to know how they were targeting black voters. Where do they get the idea that it's specifically targeting black voters? Where does the money go? And how were they trying to keep them from voting? How were they allegedly suppressing black voters from going to the polls? And did it work? If they actually suppressed voters, I could understand the argument, but did they? Well, the judge must still approve the agreement if the two men fail to pay at least $105,000 by December 31st and do not address the failure to pay within 30 days, the amount will increase to $1.25 million. What does that mean? So they don't have to pay they don't have to pay $1.25 million, or they do? Because that confuses it. Meanwhile, David Schwartz, an attorney for Wall and Berkman, said in a statement his clients are satisfied with the settlement and are pleased to put the case behind them so they can focus on their families and careers. Okay, it must be nice to be able to just say, yeah, I'll pay the fine, piss off. I wish I could afford to do that. The settlement comes after Wall and Berkman had previously faced penalties for running similar schemes during the 2020 election. I'm going to see if I can find it. I'm going to look for that tomorrow. I remember. Hopefully I remember, because sometimes I forget. I'm going to see if I can remember and I want to find that recording, and I want to, or at least a transcript of it. I'll read it. If I play the recording, I'll probably get in trouble. But if I can find a transcript of it, I think that would be better. And I'll read it off and just see how it was targeting black voters specifically and discouraging them from voting. Was it trying to keep them from voting at all? How is that? Unknown says the domestication of cattle led to the extinction of the ARC. Don't tell the vegans, or the ARCH. Fluke Man says if animal products are disgusting and we shouldn't consume them, why do they contain so much nutrients for us? Helter says corruption is lucrative. And there's Rodney. Rodney says the Democrats are indulging in an orgy of lawfare. Easy when you control the judiciary. Indeed. And Rodney says also the Democrats are, oh, I read that. It came on here twice, I see. And Lucky says, you do such a great job interacting with the chat. I think you should highly consider doing 2 hours. Appreciate your time. I've thought about it. I know a lot of people ask me to do a 2 hour session. I don't know if I have quite the audience for it. You know what I mean? Because it's I don't have a huge audience, and I do try to at least acknowledge people. I don't always have time to get into. I don't always have time to get into too many of the comments, as it were. And I've got to pick and choose, and I try to ignore side comments. And of course, naturally, if there was more subscribers, I'd have to narrow it down a little bit, but I'd still do my best to be interactive. But yeah, it's been suggested before. If I had a little bit better of an audience, I'd try it, because again, you know, I'm just kind of doing this in my own free time, and like I said, I'm not getting compensated for it, not even by Fistful of Radio. Fistful of Radio, the producer there just likes me. He likes what I do here. And he was like, yeah, I want to put you in my time slot, but I don't have a sponsor there. And that's nothing against Fistful of Radio. It's just how it is. That's just how it is. I don't have a sponsor there, so I don't get any compensation for it. But at least it gets out there. Maybe somebody will hear it. Zane says, thank you for acknowledging us. Absolutely, I try. At least say hello, you know. And but yeah, it'd be nice if I had a bigger audience. Sometimes if I catch something, I have a bit of an epiphany from an article, and I'm like, holy crap, look at this. Think about this for a minute, because I stumbled over something and thought about it. I wish I had a bigger audience to share with people, like when I chop up somebody's fact checking and realize, hey, wait a minute, this is bullshit. You know what I mean? Something like that, that sort of a thing. Or if I notice something unusual in an article or something about the wording and I point it out and it's like, yeah, this is important. Think about this. I wish I could tell everybody, but you know, it is what it is. And Rodney made a donation to the channel, says, here's a few pennies. Thank you, Rodney. Very much appreciated. I'll take all the help I can get. Take all the help I can get. Life is hard. Well, you know, and again, it's not life that's hard, and it's not the world that's hard. It's the people in it that make it hard. I should put that on a t-shirt. And Unknown says, I hope your channel grows. I'm unable to post links on my feed, and I'm not on any other social sites except for PSA Forum. That's all right. I appreciate that, though, Unknown. I do. As we travel around here, actually, we're getting close to the top of the hour. You can still see Dusty sleeping in the background. I think I shall not disturb her. But again, you are listening to and or watching Coffee Talk, and that is at Coffee Talk Live and at Prepper University on YouTube, simultaneously broadcasting at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And for the live portion, that is, and please subscribe there if you have not. And at Coffee Talk Chat on X, formerly known as Twitter, as well as fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon. Thanks to everybody who was able to join us here today. A special thanks, of course, to Rodney for making a donation to the channel. Always appreciated. And hope you all got something out of the conversation. We will see you again